lead isn't necessarily just like about being super traditional. I think taking the lead is also about choosing the person or the relationship and supporting that person regardless of their life choices. So I think you can be successful or work and have children. I have two, one's 10 and one's 7, and still have successful relationships. I think taking the lead doesn't necessarily mean toxic masculinity though. So I think
define before we move through that, let's define toxic masculinity.
Well, like I'd say toxic is where women are forced into traditional roles that maybe they don't want to partake in. So,
do you think, can you truly force someone into doing something like
absolutely you can.
Is it going to their head?
Coercive control, gaslighting, yes you can.
Love bombing.
Yes.
We got all the trigger words coming out now.
This is like narcissism. Are very like that. Yeah. They're like, that's how they do it. Like love bombing is a big thing right now.
If you've endured emotional abuse or coercive control, then absolutely you can be forced into it. And financial abuse as well. So financial abuse isn't just the man controlling the money. It can also be that he doesn't actually do anything with the money and the money is left up to his partner. So there's so many ways that people can be controlled through toxic masculinity.
Anyone else want to mention anything about this viewpoint?
No, it's like, for example, I don't know, like from my culture, like Latin culture, is a lot of that toxic masculinity that the men have to provide. They're like the ones that have to work and women have to stay home with the kids and all those things. But like, but it's just being raised in that kind of culture. Like I never agree with that. So it was just, and I can see lots of my like cousins and people are just kind of doing that again, kind of like going through the circle again, even though they saw the mums and my aunties or my grandmas going through things like that, and I just don't see changes, and it's frustrating to see that control is just over the years doesn't change much, even though like everyone is a bit more vocal about things, but it doesn't really change, especially in Latin culture. I feel like it's a big issue, to be honest.
I think one of the other challenges you've got is actually financially. How, like in Australia, how do you actually support a family on one wage? How do you have a mortgage and pay for school and pay for a car and groceries? You know,
it's difficult.
Yeah.
I agree.
So how do you do it on one income?
You want to mention anything about this toxic masculinity? Women having careers.
I'm not sure. I'm in the middle. I'm like really traditional. So I actually like the idea. I just do. Like I like traditional.
Don't let anybody shame you out of that.
No. Because it's like so like, especially in Australia and New Zealand, it is getting further away, you know, like we are moving more towards that equal and both having careers, but I do like traditional. I really do. And sometimes I wish that we lived, you know, way back when, because it was. And I love chivalry and I love all those things. Simpler, yeah.
But I think in terms, I'm not saying like what I said, like I like tradition, but it depends on the type of tradition.
This is the bipolarism I'm talking about. You like tradition, but I like the type of tradition. I'm not sure about it.
No, I'm not saying I'm not sure about it, but it's certain aspects of things I agree with and other ones that I don't. And I can see, for example, from like the perspective of having a family, from like the end of times that we are, you know, like we've been, women are always, we are like a natural nurturers. So it's normal for us to, like, if we have kids, to stay with them for longer periods of times than the dad, because the dad or men feel like they're the ones that have to be the provider all the time. And I don't think that's going to change anytime soon, because it's just, you know,
Yeah, I just want to jump in on this. So I just want to start with the first thing that we kind of started with, which was like leadership. So I don't think there's anything to do with like toxic. I don't agree with toxic masculinity. I don't think that coercive control and all of these things are like a legitimate excuse for picking the wrong partner, because I think at the end of everything, it all comes down to personal responsibility. And like, I know people in my family that have chosen bad partners and all this stuff, and at the end of it, you go, okay, I understand that all happened and they were a terrible person and they did all these things and they kind of, you know, pushed you into doing this. But at the end of the day, who chose that person? At the end of the day, who chose to do those acts and do those things? I'm not saying that that person is completely removed from responsibility either. Yeah, they're a shitty person. But I don't think that you can blame your own shitty choices on men's toxicness. I think that's really negative and kind of like just completely unaccountable precedent to set that, well, it's a man's fault because he tricked me into this. No, no one tricked you. You're absolutely 100% aware that you're engaging with this person and you chose to engage with that person. I don't agree that you can blame men because they're shitty because you chose a shitty guy. Just like you can't blame guys for picking shitty women. You can't blame the women that are shitty, that divorce guys and take all their money and sleep with their best friend and do all this shit. They unfortunately made a mistake. Now, what I think tends to happen is a lot of people have these bad experiences and then they create this viewpoint that all people of that gender or a big portion of people of that gender or a certain portion of that gender is evil and bad and horrible. Because, but they're all fucking gold diggers. They took my money. Yeah, but that's my fault. That's my fault. And I think this is another double standard that occurs, and there's so many double standards, and it's totally normal, and that's the way life's going to be always. But one of the double standards is if you're like a toxic, crazy female, it's just normal, it's your emotions. If you're a fucking assertive, aggressive, or you've got some, like boundaries that most people don't like, and I'm not saying there isn't fucking degenerative, horrible people that are really fucking manipulative and narcissistic. The problem is they're on both genders.